You're at dinner with a friend who's complaining about their job for the 47th time. Your body wants to leave, but your mouth says, "Want to grab another drink?" Later, lying in bed, you replay that moment and you get a feeling that you are being fake. The words that came out wrong. You didn't lie exactly. You just erased yourself. This isn't kindness. It's a neurological hijacking. Your brain has confused a minor social interaction with a survival threat. The same circuits that kept your ancestors from being exiled now keep you trapped in conversations you hate, jobs that drain you, relationships where you perform instead of exist. Here's what nobody tells you. People-pleasing isn't a personality flaw. It's a documented brain state with measurable neural signatures. And once you understand the machinery, you can dismantle it. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a disappointed face and a predator. When you imagine saying no to your boss, to your mother, to the friend who always asks for favors, a tiny almond-shaped structure deep in your brain lights up like a fire alarm. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA discovered that social rejection activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that processes physical pain. Your brain doesn't metaphorically experience rejection as pain. It literally codes it the same way. This is where people-pleasing begins, not in weakness, in threat detection. The prefrontal cortex is supposed to regulate this response. It's your rationality center, the part that should whisper, "This person being annoyed is not life-threatening." But in chronic people-pleasers, this region shows reduced activity during social stress. Research from the University of Michigan found that individuals with high agreeableness and low assertiveness display measurably weaker vmPFC regulation when anticipating social disapproval. Translation: your brake system is offline. Meanwhile, dopamine plays a cruel trick. When you say yes against your will, you get a micro hit of relief. The threat signal stops. Your nervous system exhales. This feels like reward, so your brain encodes the behavior say yes, feel safe as a survival strategy. But here's the cost. Chronic self-abandonment depletes baseline dopamine over time. Studies on burnout show that repeated boundary violations correlate with anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure. You're not just tired. You're neurochemically bankrupt. The anterior cingulate cortex adds another layer. This region monitors conflict between your actions and your values. When you say yes but mean no, it detects the mismatch and generates what researchers call cognitive dissonance distress. That knot in your stomach isn't guilt. It's your brain screaming that your behavior doesn't match your intent. You feel crazy because your neurology is at war with itself. Comment a brain emoji below if you've ever felt your body say no while your mouth said yes. Evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar calculated that early human groups averaged 150 members. Small enough that everyone knew your reputation. Large enough that exile meant zero chance of survival. No backup tribe existed over the hill. If the group rejected you, you didn't eat, you didn't reproduce. You became evolutionary dead weight. So your brain evolved a hypersensitive social radar. Anthropologists call this costly signaling theory. You didn't just cooperate. You over-cooperated to prove loyalty. You shared your food even when hungry. You helped build shelters even when exhausted. You said yes to every request because generosity was a flashing neon sign that read, "Don't exile me." The humans who felt mild discomfort at saying no survived. The ones who felt nothing got voted off the island and left no descendants. You inherited the nervous system of the chronic giver. But here's the mismatch. That environment no longer exists. Your boss cannot exile you to death by saber-toothed tiger. Your mother's disappointment will not result in starvation. The friend who gets annoyed when you cancel plans has 17 other friends and a DoorDash account. The stakes have collapsed, but your threat detection system hasn't updated its software. Neuroscientist Paul Gilbert describes this as old brain, new world. Your brain still thinks it's on the African savanna, where group cohesion meant survival. It cannot comprehend modern abundance. The existence of other jobs, other friends, other communities. So it continues to scream danger when you consider the mildest assertion of self. This is why people-pleasing feels so compulsive. You're not weak-willed. You're running ancient code in a modern environment. The behavior that kept your ancestors alive now keeps you trapped in a life you don't recognize as your own. Naomi Eisenberger put people in an fMRI machine and had them play a computer game called Cyberball. Simple premise. 3 players toss a virtual ball back and forth. Except 2 of the players were programmed to suddenly exclude the participant. Just stopped throwing them the ball. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex erupted. The same neural signature as someone touching a hot stove. Social exclusion didn't resemble physical pain in the brain. It was physical pain. Eisenberger's study at UCLA became the foundational evidence that your people-pleasing isn't irrational. Your brain genuinely experiences boundary setting as a threat to your body. But the damage goes deeper than a single imaging study. A 20-year longitudinal study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology tracked over 2,000 adults who scored high on sociotropy, the clinical term for people-pleasing. Researchers found that chronic accommodators showed significantly higher rates of depression, anxiety disorders, and autoimmune conditions by midlife. The cortisol doesn't just spike during the yes you didn't want to give, it stays elevated. Your immune system interprets constant self-abandonment as chronic stress, which it is. The workplace data is even starker. A Harvard Business School study analyzed performance reviews and promotion rates across 12,000 employees. Those who reported difficulty saying no to requests were 17% less likely to receive promotions over a 5-year period. Not because they were less competent, because they were less visible, buried under everyone else's tasks. The irony. The behavior you think makes you valuable actually makes you invisible. Then there's the neuroscience of recovery. Researchers at Stanford took chronic people-pleasers and taught them a simple boundary-setting protocol over 8 weeks. Pre- and post-intervention brain scans showed increased activation in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex during simulated social rejection scenarios. The regulation system came back online, not through years of therapy, through repetition. The brain updated its threat assessment because the feared outcome, exile, catastrophe, abandonment, never arrived. One participant described it like this. I said no to hosting Thanksgiving. My mother was upset for 3 days. Then she got over it. My brain had predicted annihilation. Reality delivered a long weekend. The evidence is clear. People-pleasing has measurable neural correlates, documented health costs, and concrete career consequences. But it's also reversible. Your brain is plastic. It just needs new data. Here's what the self-help industrial complex won't tell you. People-pleasing isn't a bug in your system. It's a feature that got misapplied. Researcher Elaine Aron spent decades studying what she called sensory processing sensitivity. Roughly 20% of humans have a more reactive nervous system. Not damaged, not broken, just tuned to pick up subtler signals, micro-expressions, tonal shifts, the slight tension in someone's shoulders. This is the same trait that made certain ancestors exceptional scouts, mediators, and strategists. You're not overly sensitive. You're highly perceptive, operating in a low-resolution world. The people who become chronic pleasers often score highest on empathy assessments. A study from the University of California found that individuals with heightened anterior insular activity, the region that processes emotional contagion, were both more likely to self-sacrifice and more effective at leadership when they learned boundary skills. The empathy didn't disappear. It became strategic instead of reflexive. This reframes everything. Your ability to read a room isn't a weakness to fix. It's a superpower to aim correctly. Now the real paradox. Radical honesty creates deeper trust than constant agreeability. Psychologist Brené Brown's research on vulnerability found that people rated someone as more trustworthy after they said no than after they said yes resentfully, because humans have built-in incongruence detectors. When your words don't match your energy, people feel it even if they can't name it. That fake enthusiasm, that tight smile, it registers as danger. But when you say, I can't do that, but I can do this. The alignment between your words and your state makes people relax. You become predictable. And predictability is the foundation of trust. There's even a case for selfish behavior as pro-social modeling. When you set a boundary, you give others permission to do the same. A study published in Social, Psychological, and Personality Science found that when one member of a friend group started declining obligations, others reported feeling liberated to do the same within 6 months. Your no doesn't just protect you. It teaches your community that relationships can survive disappointment. The hidden benefit. People-pleasing kept you safe in a world that no longer exists, but the sensitivity that drove it can make you exceptional in the world that does. You don't need to kill your empathy. You need to add discernment. Feel everything. Respond selectively. Comment a light bulb emoji below if this reframed people-pleasing for you. The 2-second rule rewires your automatic people-pleasing reflex. When someone asks you for something, your brain has already fired the yes before you consciously process the request. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio calls these somatic markers, precognitive bodily responses that drive decisions. Your mouth opens. The yes forms. You've agreed before you've thought. The intervention is brutally simple. Pause for 2 seconds before responding to any request. Not 2 minutes, not a full deliberation. Just insert a micro gap between stimulus and response. Say, "Let me check my calendar," or "Can I get back to you in an hour?" This brief delay allows your prefrontal cortex to catch up to your amygdala. Studies on impulse control show that even a 2-second pause reduces automatic compliance by 43%. You're not learning to say no. You're learning to consult yourself before answering. But knowing you should pause doesn't stop the physical panic when you actually try it. This is where somatic reset becomes non-negotiable. When you feel the fear response during boundary-setting heart clinches, shallow breathing, the urge to backtrack, you need a physiological interrupt. The most effective, the physiological sigh. 2 sharp inhales through the nose, 1 long exhale through the mouth. Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman's research shows this pattern rapidly downregulates amygdala activation by offloading carbon dioxide and engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. You're not calming yourself with thoughts. You're hacking your vagus nerve. Next comes graduated exposure. You don't start by saying no to your boss about the promotion-dependent project. You start small. The disappointment exposure ladder works like this. Week 1. Say no to something trivial with 0 consequences. The grocery store cashier asks if you want to donate $1. You say no. Feel the discomfort. Notice you survive. Week 2. Decline a low-stakes social invitation. Coffee with an acquaintance you're lukewarm about. I can't make it, but thanks for thinking of me. No justification. No counteroffer, just the boundary. Week 3. Push back on a minor imposition from someone closer. Your friend assumes you'll help them move. You say, "I'm not available, but I can recommend movers." Week 4. Set a boundary at work. A colleague asks you to cover their task. You say, "I don't have bandwidth, but here's what I can do instead." Each repetition updates your brain's threat prediction model. The catastrophe you feared doesn't materialize. People get mildly annoyed, then move on. Some respect you more. Your nervous system logs new data. Boundary does not equal annihilation. But the guilt will come anyway. When it does, use the reframing script. When your brain screams, "You're selfish," "You're letting them down," "You're a bad person," respond with, "I'm allowed to have limits. Their disappointment is not my emergency. I can care about someone and still say no." Neuropsychologist Rick Hanson's research on self-directed compassion shows that repeating corrective statements during emotional activation rewires implicit beliefs faster than intellectual understanding alone. You're installing new firmware through repetition. The long-term rewiring takes 6 to 8 weeks of consistent practice. Brain imaging studies on habit formation show that the ventromedial prefrontal cortex strengthens its regulatory connections to the amygdala after approximately 50 repetitions of a new behavior. 50 times of pausing before saying yes. 50 times of tolerating someone's brief disappointment. 50 times of your nervous system learning that you can survive being disliked. Then one day you'll notice the panic before saying no has dimmed to a whisper. The guilt after setting a boundary lasts minutes instead of days. You stop performing your life and start living it. Not because you became selfish, because you became honest. And honesty, it turns out, is the most generous thing you can offer to others and to yourself.